Traveling to Japan back and forth, particularly in the early days of my channel, I got to meet a lot of interesting people. One of those guys was Amemiya. Amemiya, a lot of Japanese, American people, you'll hear them say Mamma Mia, it almost sounds like they say, but Rotary Engine Amemiya. That is his name. He is a legend, a god in Japan, in the world of rotary engines, Mazda RX-7s. I got to Japan, it was still in the early days of my channel, 2012, 2013, somewhere around there, and I did an interview with him. And he told me a story. He told me a story at that time about how he was on the Wangan Expressway in Tokyo one time with a little tiny Mazda car that he threw a two-rotor engine in, and he went out there and this guy in a Porsche showed up. The guy in a Porsche had a suit on, he was real cool, had the beautiful girlfriend, the dress and the high heels. And he said, hey, you want to go out and run the Wangan a little bit? Let's go drive on the expressway. And you're like, okay, sure. He looks at Mr. Amemiya's little piece of crap two-rotor engine car. He says, he ain't going to stay with me in my Porsche. Amemiya gets on there, and he is tail grabbing this guy's ass all over the highway in the Porsche. The Porsche could not shake this little rotary engine car. Porsche pulls over, and his girlfriend apparently got out of the car, walked away, and says, if you can't beat a little piece of crap like that, I'm not driving with you in your Porsche no more. He lost his girlfriend, and he lost the race to a little piece of crap car in a brand new Porsche. And he told me, he says, Steve, I want you to know something. The Mazda RX-7 is the best balanced car you could ever drive. Give me a Lambo, give me a Diablo, give me a Ferrari, whatever you want, and give me an RX-7. He says, let's race. I'll be one finger on the steering wheel, driving all around, and you won't be able to keep up with me. Is this old man serious? I got back to America, and he had me hooked on an RX-7. I had to buy one just to see what he was saying. I bought my first RX-7 FD about 2012, 2013. Very nice car. Had it for a couple of years, did a lot of fun stuff to it. Unfortunately, wound up selling it. Several years passed, coronavirus hit. My son, who was in school in Georgia at the time, got sent home, no classes, nothing to do. Video this, video that. You know, everybody knows the situation we had. We're back in California, in Southern California, and at home together and trying to figure out what we're going to do with our stuff. What am I going to do with my channel now? I can't go to Japan. I can't go meet Mr. Amemiya. I don't know what I'm going to do. My son said, hey, how about we buy another RX-7? That was fun. But why don't we go back a generation, go to an RX-7 FC? So they're relatively cheap, and I think it's going to be a good car. Plus, my son really loves an animation series called Initial D. Initial D was everything for him growing up. And if you watch Initial D, RX-7s, Hachiroku, the 86s, these are the cars that they drifted in the mountains. They were the cool cars. I was not into these cars whatsoever. It's just not my style, not anything. But my son said, Dad, looks like there's a car down in East LA, and it's like $700 or $800 it's being offered for. Like $700 or $800. I said, oh, pretty cheap, I guess. I said, what are we going to do with it? He goes, well, we're going to build the car together on the channel. I said, okay, well, I guess we got plenty of time to do that now. So we loaded up the trailer, loaded up my Ford Raptor, headed down to East LA, went up to a house. Taken back behind the house was this gold, faded, red interior, not in pieces, but a really rough RX-7 FC, 1986. Guy was asking $700-800 for it, I think, at the time, or about $850 at the time. And my son and I looked at it and said, are we going to buy this car? Are we going to do this? Commit to it? And he said, yeah. Offered him $700 for this car, and the guy sold me this RX-7 FC. We pushed it out of his backyard, loaded it on the trailer, and brought it home. And that was the start of something that I couldn't have predicted at the time, never predicted, but how a $700 car has led to probably 7 million or more views on my channel on a father and son project that was born that day in East LA. We brought that car back. A little $700 RX-7 that didn't run, didn't drive, didn't start. It had rust in the sunroof. The engine was leaking. Everything was a mess on it. And we just started in our driveway at that time with nothing but time to do, ripping this car apart and making videos about it. Really not knowing about rotary or anything what we were getting into at the time. And those videos started taking off and people started following. People in Japan started following it. People in America started following it. My son and I got really into it. We started expanding relationships with people in the rotary world. We got a rotary engine builder. We found guys with rotary engine parts. We took that car and basically DIY everything ourselves in our driveway for that car. And over the matter of, I'd say 6, 7, or 8 months, put that car back together. We wrapped it ourselves. We themed it ourselves. We got some wheel deals done ourselves, got an engine deal done. We did a bunch of stuff to it, built that car, and put this RX-7 FC together. I remember the day we fired it up for the first time in our driveway. Oh man, and we did it uncorked, by the way, too. Oh, by the way, fully Bridgeported motor we had done for it. So this thing was gonna brap in the rotary sense like nothing else. NA, no turbo, carbureted, old school, 2-rotor, 13B is what we built for the car. When we fired it up, we didn't have no exhaust for the car yet. We had pretty cool neighbors in the neighborhood at the time, but the lady next door wasn't fully down with all the car stuff that we were doing. She definitely was not down after we fired up that car, because when we fired up that car for this, she came out and said, she was screaming. I got her on video too. There's a video of it that will show it, but she was pissed. But that car fired up, and that sound, man, that rotary sound, that brap, 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 and flames just shooting out underneath the car. It was amazing. They built more than a car, but we built, my channel grew significantly because of a $700 car. A father and son project was born. And the birth of that project, for the two of us being involved in it together, and he was old enough now at the time, 14, 15, 16 years old at the time now, that he had the ability to work on stuff and to learn how to do certain things on the car. And we studied together, and we learned together, and we got our hands dirty together, and we cut ourselves together, and we wrapped the car together, and we did all these things together, father and son, that we had never done. And looking back on that project now, we still own the car. It's a car in my collection. It's not nearly the most expensive car. It's nothing even close to it. But the meaning that that car has as a car that I built with my son together during a time that the world was shut down and nothing was going on. And we took something that could have been a time where it could have been the end of my channel. A guy used to go into Japan and doing all this stuff and doing cars in Japan. That couldn't go anywhere. What were we going to do? We managed to make it work together. From a simple $700 car, we bonded, we built a relationship. And my son was about to go on to dental school. He had interviews for dental school. And one of the interesting things they asked him, so what motivated you to become a dentist? What was it? And he said something interesting. I read it in one of his things. He talked about how, what he did with his dad back in those days working on these cars. He learned about cutting rust out or taking Bondo out of somewhere and filling it and doing it was very similar to working on a filling in a tooth. It was very similar to correcting things in piping. Working with your two hands with tools and other stuff was something that he felt he learned through a $700 RX-7 that kept his motivation up to continue doing that. That, believe it or not, led partially into him becoming a dentist and wanted to become a dentist as well. And he tells me, I don't think there's many kids going into dental school who talk about a $700 RX-7 that helped motivate them to become a dentist and work with his two hands. It's amazing how sometimes you just couldn't picture how something like that could become a life changer. And that was that car. And I'd say of all the cars I have, there's few that I can't sell. That car became one of them that I can't sell. If you look at Steve's POV now, you look at some of the best viewed videos just of that RX-7. It's not the most beautiful car by any means, not at all. We wrapped it ourselves. You could see it. I mean, it's amateur in many ways, but it doesn't matter. People love it. People like it. People who know the story appreciate it. People in Japan saw the father and son relationship that was born through that car. And so many dads from Japan, so many dads from here said, Steve, we're so envious of that relationship you have. We wish we can have a relationship with that or develop something like that with our sons. I say you can. And you know how many dads have come up to me in Japan and in Texas and California or here and said, Steve, thanks. So for what? For doing what you did with your son on that. I said, I want to do. That's how I'm going to bond a relationship with my kid. So the moral of the story is 700, 7,000, 7 million. You know what? I'll argue that the guy who could buy the $7 million car, that's great. But the $700 car that me and him went and built and did everything on ourselves from beginning to end had $7 million worth of value to it in more ways than a $7 million car. And 7 million views or more, however many millions of views from it. Just, I don't know. It's a story that I look back at, I'll probably smile about all my life and think about how important that car was to the relationship between my son and I, and then to the building and the overall success of Steve's POV as my channel. And my love for rotaries now that hasn't ended, because I love rotaries. We have a couple other brappers in the mix now too, and I can't get enough rotary. And thank God I live in a beautiful state like Texas where we can enjoy cars like that. Mr. Amemiya, thank you for the motivation. To my son, thank you for working together. And yeah, man, just a great, great story. It always puts a smile on my face. One of the most amazing things about that car is, I drive it now, whether my son's around or he's at school, but I'll take that car out. I'll go in the car shows in Texas now. I got nothing against the guys with the big money cars, you know, the Lambo owners, the Bugatti owners, everything else. But when that car pulls in to a meet, everything stops. People just can't help but just look. Obviously, first you hear it, then you see it. And there's something special. And to see kids, American kids, teenagers, know what that car is, that it's roots to that Initial D animation, and quote things from Initial D and talk about toge, drifting, and all these other things. Things that honestly, me, as a fluent Japanese speaker, I didn't even get into because I was not into animation. To see how that car has an effect on people in the United States and young guys in the United States and their attachment to Japanese culture through that animation, it's quite amazing for me. It's really, this car has bridged two cultures together, America, Japan, and that's exactly everything that I'm about, what my son's about. So it's amazing. And it's especially amazing to see a guy pull in a Bugatti and see a guy pull in a $700 RX-7 and see all the kids run toward, believe it or not, the RX-7. No offense to the guy in a Bugatti, because I respect them all, but it does put a smile on my face to see all those kids come running around and want to check out a rotary, a 1980, before they were ever born or ever knew about these cars, to still see people, young kids interested in it. It's amazing to me, man. It's a great, great thing. I feel like I'm showing the car world and young kids, through sharing with them in a lot of ways, something, a piece of history that we brought back in our own way that even young kids can appreciate nowadays. That's pretty darn cool. Really cool.
I am away collecting my next bad automotive decision, but in my absence, I told the team from Glossit that we needed to bring back the free gloss. That was your favorite promotion a couple of years ago, and so the next 500 of you can get a free bottle of their amazing award-winning detail spray. All you have to do is pay the shipping and handling. So check it out now at the link in the description below. I love it. I love their DIY ceramic coating, but I use the detail sprays all the time. You'll love it. So check out the link now, get you some Glossit goodness, and thank them for their support of VINwiki.